Ashwood was a place forgotten by time. It lay hidden in the thick, ancient woods of the Midwest, shrouded in mist and mystery. Few travelers ventured there, and those who did rarely stayed long. The town's only connection to the outside world was a single radio station, WSHD, broadcasting on a frequency so low it barely reached beyond the town limits. Megan Ross, an ambitious journalist from the city, was drawn to Ashwood by tales of strange occurrences and an eerie sense of isolation. She was fascinated by the idea of a place so cut off from the modern world, and she arrived with plans to uncover the town's secrets. Upon arrival, Megan found the town's streets eerily empty. The locals were wary of outsiders and spoke in hushed tones about the town's dark history. The few people she managed to speak with told her to leave, but Megan's curiosity only grew. Her focus quickly turned to the radio station, WSHD, which seemed to hold the town's lifeline. The station was run by an enigmatic figure named John Barlow, a man who rarely left the studio, and was rumored to have a mysterious past. Determined to get an interview, Megan made her way to the station late one night. The building was old and decrepit, its once bright paint now peeling away. She knocked on the door, and after a long pause, it creaked open. John Barlow stood there, a gaunt figure with piercing eyes. He reluctantly allowed her in, warning her that Ashwood was not a place for outsiders. Inside the studio was a chaotic mess of outdated equipment and scattered papers. The air was thick with the smell of dust and stale smoke. As they talked, John revealed little about himself but spoke ominously about the town's history. He claimed that Ashwood was built on cursed land, and that the radio station was the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. As the night wore on, Megan noticed a peculiar hum coming from the radio equipment. John explained that it was the signal that kept the town safe, broadcasting a continuous loop of white noise mixed with low-frequency tones. According to him, the signal disrupted the malevolent forces that haunted the town. Megan, skeptical but intrigued, decided to investigate further. She spent the next few days exploring the town, digging through old records and talking to anyone who would speak to her. She learned about a series of mysterious deaths and disappearances that had plagued Ashwood for decades. The townspeople believed these events were connected to the land's dark history and the strange signal from the radio station. One evening, as Megan reviewed her notes in her motel room, the radio suddenly crackled to life. John's voice came through, strained and urgent. "Megan, you need to come to the station now." She hurried to the station, finding John visibly shaken. "The signal is weakening," he said. "Something is interfering with it. If it stops, the darkness will consume the town." Megan suggested boosting the signal using more modern equipment. John reluctantly agreed, and they worked through the night, cobbling together a makeshift transmitter. As dawn approached, the hum of the signal grew stronger, and John seemed momentarily relieved, but their relief was short-lived. As they prepared to broadcast the strengthened signal, the power suddenly went out. The studio plunged into darkness, and the hum of the signals ceased. Panic set in as they scrambled to restore power. Outside, an unnatural fog began to creep into the town, and distant screams echoed through the night. John grabbed a flashlight and led Megan to the basement, where the station's backup generator was located. As they descended into the damp, musty cellar, they heard strange whispers and saw shadows flitting across the walls. John explained that the generator needed to be manually restarted, but as he approached it, a dark figure lunged at him from the shadows. Megan watched in horror as John was pulled into the darkness, his screams abruptly silenced. She ran to the generator, her hands shaking, As she fumbled with the controls, she managed to get it running, and the lights flickered back on. The hum of the signal returned, but the damage was done. She raced back to the studio where the equipment was sparking and smoking. The signal was still weak, and the fog outside was thickening. Desperate, Megan decided to broadcast a message, hoping to reach anyone who could help. "This is Megan Ross at WSHD in Ashwood. If anyone can hear this, we need help. The town is under attack by something. Something not of this world. Please, if you're out there, we need your help." As she spoke, the fog began to seep into the studio. The equipment started to malfunction, and the room grew cold. Megan felt a hand grip her shoulder and turned to see John, or what was left of him. His eyes were empty, and his face twisted in a grotesque smile. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. Megan's scream was cut off as the signal died, plunging the town into silence. The next morning, Ashwood was empty. The fog had lifted, and the town lay silent and abandoned. The only sign of life was the crackling of the dead airwaves, a ghostly reminder of the broadcast that had gone out the night before. In the city, Megan's colleagues at the news agency received her last transmission. They sent a search party to Ashwood, but found no trace of her or the townsfolk. The only thing they discovered was the radio station, its equipment still humming with the faint, eerie signal. Megan's story became a legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of uncovering secrets best left buried. The town of Ashwood remained deserted, a ghost town haunted by the sins of its past and the echoes of a last desperate broadcast.